In this video, I'm going to be comparing the iPhone 16 Pro Max against the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. These are the best of the best flagship smartphones on the market, and this is the only comparison video you'll need. I'll be using 8 distinct categories to compare these flagships, and I will declare an objective winner, and also which of these smartphones that I'll be using as my preferred daily driver. I purposefully waited for the first wave of Apple Intelligence features and Android 15 to make this a fair comparison. Starting with design. So on the front, you will see that Apple has actually shrunk the bezels this year on the iPhone 16 Pro series and has kept the dynamic island in order to work with all of that Face ID tech. Face ID continues to be super quick and super accurate and works almost flawlessly, even in the dark. Samsung and Google continue to stick with their circular camera cutout and instead have opted for an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which is equally as fast as Face ID and has the added convenience of not needing to look at your phone to unlock it. To me, neither approach is a deal breaker and both of them have their advantages. Now, if you turn around the devices, you'll be disappointed depending on who you are. The iPhone and Samsung look pretty much exactly the same as their predecessors and even more so with specific colors. The Pixel, however, has an all-new fresh design that some people say resembles the iPhone a little bit, but I personally think it looks better. It's also the only phone here that doesn't wobble on a table. Both the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra have matte titanium sides, with Apple's titanium being a higher grade version of titanium versus the Pixel, which uses polished aluminum. But that polished aluminum does have this unique grippy texture that I haven't really seen anywhere before. My opinion is, who cares about titanium? I think it's just a marketing gimmick and the grippy sides are just more practical. The iPhone does have additional functionality. There's a customizable action button and the all-new camera control, both of which I'll get into later, but spoiler alert, I really hate the new camera control. So in terms of comfort, the S24 Ultra is the least comfortable here because of its square edges, which are kind of harsh on the palm. It's also the heaviest of the bunch. The Pixel and the iPhone tend to be more comfortable because of the rounded edges, with the Pixel being slightly more comfortable because it is narrower and also because it's less heavier. When it comes to color choices, the S24 Ultra has 7 different color options versus 4 on both the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Overall, from a hardware perspective, my winner is the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. It has an all-new fresh design, it's comfortable, it's got rounded edges, it's got grippy sides, and it has no table wobble. This is the most subjective category, so your answer may be completely different. Display. All of these phones have beautiful 120 Hz LTPO OLED displays with really great colors, and all of them are easy to view in direct sunlight, with the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL having the brightest display of the bunch and the iPhone with the lowest. I do want to call out that the peak brightness difference between the Google Pixel and the iPhone is as much as 1000 nits, and that is a very tangible difference. However, if you're watching content indoors and it's particularly HDR content, Samsung's display does tend to be the brightest. When it comes to the display that can go to dimmest, particularly for like nighttime reading and stuff like that, the S24 Ultra gets the dimmest, followed closely by the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. And both of them have an extra dim feature that phone can still be too bright in the darkest of environments at the lowest setting. When you read the specs on paper, the iPhone has the largest display at 6.9 inches versus the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro XL, both with 6.8-inch displays. However, the S24 Ultra actually feels like the largest display because of the square edges and because the dynamic island takes up so much space on the iPhone. I'm also happy to report that all of these phones have flat displays, which means it can be practical and install a tempered glass screen protector, and it has no impact to the fingerprint sensors or Face ID. Samsung's display has one advantage over the others because it has an anti-glare coating on the display, and this makes a noticeable difference in certain lighting conditions, and it cuts down glare by up to 75%. However, as soon as you install a tempered glass screen protector, all of that anti-glare goes out the window. The winner for me in this category is the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL because I'd rather have a brighter display in bright sunlight versus the anti-glare coating because that disappears as soon as you put on a tempered glass screen protector, and a tempered glass screen protector is a non-negotiable for me. Also, majority of the content I watch is not in HDR. Cameras. So the good news is that all three of these phones have incredible cameras, and you really can't go wrong with any of these phones. However, each of these phones do have a distinct look to their images and their videos, and a lot of your choice is going to come down to personal preference. But there is an objective winner. The primary sensor on the S24 Ultra is 200 megapixels versus 48 megapixels on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and 50 megapixels on the Pixel 9 Pro. However, by default, the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro shoot photos at 12 megapixels versus the iPhone at 24 megapixels. And you can see the difference here if you look closely at the buildings, as the iPhone's image is sharper, allowing you to crop in more. I also do like the iPhone's colors better here. But if you look at the logos, you can see that Samsung completely blew it out and the iPhone barely kept it together, whereas the Pixel maintained it the best. In this image here, Samsung's image is the brightest and the most vibrant. The Pixel image is contrasty and the iPhone image is the most neutral, but at the expense of keeping areas of the image darker, like in the tiles, which are harder to see, and even the details in the building are more difficult to see. The Samsung image brightens up the buildings a little too much from reality, and the sky looks more yellow than it did in real life. I prefer the Pixel's image here. In tricky dynamic range scenarios, each of these phones handle things very differently. Here you can see the iPhone just straight up ignored the tree. The Samsung phone went a little bit overboard, making the leaves look much greener than in reality, and the Pixel was right in the middle, and I prefer the more balanced image from the Pixel. You can see a similar pattern here, although here I do prefer the iPhone's image, and the way the contrast in the lighter and darker areas seem to complement each other. Here, the iPhone image looks too flat, especially if you look at the buildings. The Samsung image is too bright, especially in the grass where it's harder to see the individual strands. The Pixel image is just that extra bit contrasty and sharper, which is my personal preference. This is also one rare occasion where the Pixel image is sharper than the iPhone image at default resolution. In the maximum resolution that each of these phones support, which is 200 megapixels on the S24 Ultra, 48 megapixels on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and 50 megapixels on the Pixel 9 Pro XL, the results are not what you would expect. The Pixel at 50 megapixels has the most details, with the iPhone and Samsung not too far behind it. The Samsung has a slight edge in details over the iPhone at 200 megapixels, but it's also 4 times the resolution of the iPhone. So that's just frankly disappointing that the difference is so small. I tried this with multiple images, and what seems to happen is that the S24 Ultra's processing really starts to suffer at those higher resolutions. And you can also see that in the poor dynamic range here. Like, look at the sky. It looks horrible in comparison to the other pictures. This is why specs on paper don't translate into reality. In night mode, the iPhone and Pixel look very similar, and the Samsung looks very blue and not at all what it looked like in real life. None of these are spectacular. However, the iPhone has a slight edge here in sharpness when you look at the details on the pavement. In this image, all of them did a great job as it was incredibly dark. I do think the Pixel's image is a little too bright here. However, it did an excellent job raising the highlights from the shadows. The Samsung image just disintegrates in the details when you look at the windows on the buildings. The iPhone takes the most balanced approach here and is also the most detailed. In this extremely dark scenario, none of these look great. To my eyes, the Pixel looks the best as it's the only one where you can see the details in the grass and see people and the buildings with more clarity. However, this is at the expense of how the sky looked in real life, which the iPhone and Samsung capture perfectly. Here, I prefer the Pixel, but overall, the iPhone takes the best photos in the dark. All these phones have a dedicated 5x lens, however, not all of them were made equal. The iPhone has a 12 megapixel lens, the Samsung has a 50 megapixel lens, and the Pixel has a 48 megapixel lens. You can see the Samsung image is much sharper with better colors. The Pixel image, though sharp, is also a bit muted in the yellows. And the iPhone, although readable with better colors than the Pixel, is also noisier with the least amount of detail. Here, I prefer the S24 Ultra. Here's another 5x image. The iPhone image is again very noisy and not the sharpest, and the colors are also a bit off. The Pixel and Samsung are much closer, although the Samsung image does have slightly better details and colors. As it gets darker in 5x, the iPhone and Pixel image get even noisier, whilst the Samsung is much cleaner and also has more detail. The Pixel, however, is able to pull in much more light from the shadows. At 25x, which is the highest the iPhone can go, all of these look terrible with a lot of digital noise. The Pixel image looks slightly better than the iPhone, and the Samsung image looks the best here. The Samsung phone can zoom up to 100x, the iPhone can zoom up to 25x, and the Pixel can go up to 30x. And they all look pretty bad at that zoom range. However, at the maximum zoom that all of these phones can support, the Pixel has the most usable image, even though it's pretty grainy. The Pixel also has a zoom enhance feature that can make the images sharper using AI. Now, this may sometimes create texture that isn't really there, but it makes the image look much nicer and can really save your image. In ultra-wide shots during the day, all of these look great. However, the Pixel just has a little more detail, especially in the grass. At nighttime, however, all of these ultra-wide shots are horrendous. If I had to pick one here, it would be the iPhone, purely for how well it handled the sky. The Pixel is a bit too bright in the sky, and the Samsung is noisy and also did some weird artifacting. When it comes to macros, the Samsung phone was the easiest to get focus with and also produced the sharpest shot. The iPhone and Pixel look very similar, however the iPhone was the hardest to take a macro shot with. For selfies, both the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the S24 Ultra have 12 megapixel cameras, whereas the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL has a 42 megapixel camera. Out of the three, the Pixel has the best selfie camera, followed by the iPhone. The Pixel has the widest field of view, which is great for selfies, and also the best dynamic range, with the most details and also the most accurate representation of my skin tone. The Samsung image is just really orange and it over sharpened my face and completely blew out the background, which the Pixel kept the sharpest and the cleanest, with the iPhone right behind it. At nighttime though, the Samsung has the most sharpest image and the most detail. The Pixel has the best dynamic range, and the iPhone image looks very soft. In portrait mode at 2x, the iPhone does the best thanks to its inbuilt LiDAR scanner, and has the best edge detection as a result, which you can see on my hair. The Samsung was very close, and the Pixel completely messed up my hair. At 5x, the Samsung image looks cleaner with better edge detection, especially around my nose. It's also much sharper, as you can see by the hairs around my beard. The Pixel doesn't go further than 3x, which is a shame, and that 3x is optical, so that's why I haven't even bothered to show it. In portrait selfies, the iPhone did the best here with the best edge detection, which can be seen on my hair and my beard, and a nice balance of colors. In portrait mode for objects, the S24 Ultra did have the best edge detection, the iPhone was in the middle, and the Pixel did the worst. In daytime video, they all look very similar, although the iPhone's video does look a little bit sharper. But in bright daylight, you won't be disappointed with any of these. There's a video boost feature on the Pixel that can really save your video and clean it up, and it can also upscale your video to 8K. The S24 Ultra can record natively in 8K, which is what I've shown here, whereas the iPhone can only go up to 4K, but it can go to 4K at 120 frames per second. So the downside of the Pixel relying on video boost is that it basically sends the video to the cloud to process, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 4 to even 6 hours. So that's why I prefer the iPhone, because you can get really great video that's close enough without going into the cloud. At nighttime, the iPhone video is the least grainy and has the sharpest text on the boat. The Pixel looks the grainiest, and the Samsung is right in the middle with saturated colors, but it also has digital noise. The Pixel has a feature called Night Sight Video that sends your video to the cloud, exactly like Video Boost, so it takes about 2 to 4 to 6 hours to process, but it can really save your video. Now, with Video Boost, the Pixel's video is significantly better than the Samsung, and slightly better than the iPhone. Although the inconvenience and the cloud storage required for this still makes the iPhone the winner for me. Now, each of these phones do have their own unique camera features. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is the only phone here that can record at 120 frames per second, which means that if you do decide to slow down the footage, it's going to look really clean and really smooth. The iPhone also has a new 4 microphone setup that records the audio in 360 degrees. It already has the best audio quality out of the 3 when recording video, and on top of that, there's a new audio mixer feature that takes advantage of those 4 microphones. So you can control the level of sound that each of those microphones picked up. It's pretty clever and it works surprisingly well. So Apple made some improvements to photographic styles on the iPhone 16 series, and it does give you more options and more flexibility with the color profile. But I think this is something that people are going to forget about after the first few days. The iPhone is also capable of recording video and log, which strips out Apple's default color grading and gives you way more control over the color grading of that video. The iPhone also allows you to plug in an external drive and record directly onto the external drive. Now, let's talk about this all-new camera control on the iPhone. I'm going to tell you right now, this camera control is complete garbage. The first issue is that it's so poorly positioned that it's extremely awkward when you're using it in both portrait and in landscape, especially in landscape, because you gotta do this really weird arch to be able to use it, and it's just uncomfortable. So now it becomes a two-handed operation, especially when you're zooming back and forth. It's just a really weird way to have to position your hand. It's extremely awkward and it really discourages you from using it. The second issue is that the camera control is flush into the body. So while it looks very nice, when you're actually taking a photo, you're pushing into the phone. So it actually makes your phone shake a little bit, especially in landscape. Also, because the control is flushed into the phone's body, it's really tedious to activate. Because the way it works is you have to lightly press to get the controls, and then you have to press into the phone to take an image. Now, because you have to press into the phone to take an image, it actually shakes the phone because you're pressing into the phone. And this can actually make your images blurry sometimes. And what's even more annoying is that sometimes while you're trying to press into the phone to take an image, it will actually activate the primary touch and it'll think you're trying to zoom into an image. So that actually makes the experience even more frustrating. It's just not practical. And everything you can do with the camera control that usually requires two hands, you can do easily with one hand just by using the touch controls. And it's much more comfortable. So this camera control is a complete gimmick. In my opinion, it's complete garbage. When taking selfies, Samsung actually allows you to take a selfie with a gesture or by using some key phrases. It's also the only phone that allows you to record using both the back camera and the front camera at the same time. On the S24 Ultra, you can turn any video into a slow motion video from the gallery app by just tapping and holding on the video. How it does this is the AI actually creates new frames in the video to create a slow motion version of your existing video, which is pretty cool. The Pixel 9 Pro XL introduced this new feature called Add Me, which is really interesting. If you're in a scenario where you cannot take a selfie or you're trying to take a group photo, but you don't want somebody to be left out, what it does is it allows one person to take a photo of the group and it presents an overlay on the screen. And then the person that took the photo will then go into a position that is empty in the overlay. And once they're in position, a second person is going to take that picture and Google's AI is going to stitch those images together as if they were taken in one shot. The Pixel also has a feature called Best Take that takes frames of an image before you take the picture and after you take the picture. And the idea here is because it's taken multiple frames of the same image, it allows you to go into the image, tap on a person's face and change it to a version that may be better. Really handy if you have kids. Another AI feature that the Pixel has is face unblur. So even after you're taking the photo, and even if the photo was not taken on the Pixel, you can open up that image, you can click on face unblur, and the AI will unblur the person's face using AI, which will create some new frames as if that picture wasn't blurry in the first place. The Pixel also recently got a new feature that detects if you're taking a photo underwater. So it automatically adjusts the color and the sharpness to make the image clearer. In social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, the iPhone is the best optimized to record video directly in those apps. So you will notice a video quality difference, although that difference is much smaller than it used to be in the past. In conclusion, the iPhone is the best for videos, hands down. The Samsung is the best for zoom and portraits, and the Pixel is the best for overall photos. So your choice here should depend on what you prioritize the most. But the overall winner for me in this category is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It gives you the best balance across all the categories, and the video quality is so far ahead on device of the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro, especially in extreme scenarios. Speakers. All three of these phones have great speakers, and all of them are plenty loud. Compared to the S24 Ultra, the Pixel does have bassier and fuller sounding speakers, but the S24 Ultra speakers are slightly louder and have better vocal clarity. However, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the loudest of the bunch, and it has the best balance between bass and vocal clarity, making the iPhone 16 Pro Max the winner of this category. So far, we've compared the design, the displays, the cameras, and the speakers of all three phones. And right now, the Pixel and the iPhone are tied with 2 points each, and the S24 Ultra is still at 0 points. But this could completely change because we still have 4 more categories to go. Battery. When it comes to battery life, all three of these phones will easily last you through a full day of heavy use. And with lighter use, you can go even longer. However, the best battery of these three phones is the iPhone 16 Pro Max because it lasts on average up to 2 hours longer on heavy use and even longer on lighter use, which is super impressive. And it's also the best at retaining battery when the phone is left on standby. The S24 Ultra and the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL have relatively same battery life based on my testing. Now, the other side of the coin is charging speeds. When you plug these phones into the wall with their recommended fast chargers, the S24 Ultra can go from 0% to 100% in 1 hour and 9 minutes. Pixel 9 Pro XL can do that in 1 hour and 23 minutes. And the iPhone 16 Pro Max takes a whopping 1 hour and 42 minutes. With wireless charging, all three of them take about the same amount of time, going from 0% to 100% in just under 2 hours. Because most people charge their phone overnight, and most people prefer a phone that lasts longer rather than charges faster, the winner in this category is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. AI. Now, the results of this category may change in the coming months, and that's because the iPhone 16 series launched without any of the Apple Intelligence features, and we just got some recently in iOS 18.1, but it's just the first batch of AI features. I'm going to judge this category based on what's available in early November of 2024, rather than on future promises, which is never recommended. Now, something really important to note for your purchasing decision is that most of the Apple Intelligence features won't even be available until March next year in iOS 18.4, according to some sources. So let's start off with the AI writing tools. There are no writing tools on the Pixel, so this only applies to the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the S24 Ultra. Both of these feature a series of writing tools. This includes fixing up spelling and grammar and rewriting phrases and paragraphs in different tones. And for this particular use case, the S24 Ultra does give you more options and includes more tone options and also the ability to recompose for email, for social media, and other use cases. Now, what's annoying is that both phones do require you to use their default keyboard, so the Apple keyboard and the Samsung keyboard, and this is outside of their respective Note apps. The S24 Ultra does make it easier to access these tools through a convenient button that's placed on the keyboard. It's a static button on the keyboard, whereas for the iPhone, you are required to highlight the text when you're outside the Notes app. One advantage the iPhone has is that it allows you to create summaries and tables directly within other apps, whereas Samsung requires you to go into the Notes app to do this. Within their respective Note apps, Samsung gives you the ability to translate into other languages and also gives you more cleaner note template options. And it also allows you to choose between a shorter version of a summary or a more detailed version of a summary, whereas the iPhone has a very cool table view. So it does a summary in the form of a table, which is pretty cool. For the personal assistants, both the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro feature the Google Assistant, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max has Siri. All three assistants allow you to type to them, and they're all also context aware, so you can have free-flowing conversation, meaning the phone is going to remember what your previous query was and build off of that context. Although here, the iPhone tends to lose that context after a few prompts, whereas Google Assistant / Gemini, whatever you want to call it, tends to retain that. The Pixel also comes with 1 year of free Gemini Advance, and this is typically $20 a month, but with Gemini Advance, you are getting Gemini Live, which is kind of like ChatGPT, but the audio version where you can have a continuous conversation. And it also gives you Gemini in the Google Suite, so in Gmail, in Docs, in Sheets, and the other apps that are part of the G Suite. A great exclusive on the iPhone this year is Summarized Notification. Now, in the Notification Center itself, It's alright, it doesn't work that well, sometimes it just doesn't work at all. I think there is room for improvement here, but it does shine in the Mail app. It gives you inline summaries of your unread emails, it calls up priority notifications, and it even allows you to summarize emails further. You do get email summarization on the S24 Ultra and the Pixel, but you do need a Gemini Advanced monthly subscription. Safari on the iPhone allows you to remove distractions on the page by clicking Hide Distracting Items, followed by Hide, and then just tapping on an element. This is pretty useful for websites with lots of ads and other irrelevant intrusions. If you're using the Samsung browser, you can summarize web pages into a quick and easily digestible format. Again, this is missing from the Pixel because there are no AI features at this time in Google Chrome. All three phones allow you to record voice notes now and generate a summary with speaker labels. A feature that launched on the iPhone is the ability to record phone calls, and then the idea is you'll be able to summarize those phone calls later directly in the Notes app, but for now, it's just purely call recording. The iPhone has this new feature called Math Notes, which I think is really cool. I would have loved to have this in school. Math Notes can help you solve for variables, solve equations, it plots graphs, and if you change the value of a variable, everything on the note automatically changes to adapt to the change in variable. So on the S24 Ultra, there's a feature that allows real-time translation during phone calls. So the idea is you speak in your language and the person is actually going to hear it in their language. And when they speak to you in their language, you're going to hear it in your language. And the best part about this is that it doesn't actually require a data connection. So if you're traveling to another country, you don't have to worry about data fees. Similarly, the AI keyboard on the Samsung phone allows you to send and receive translated text messages in real time. So similar to the phone call, you send something in your language, they're going to receive it in their language, they're going to send you something in their language, and you're going to receive it in your language. The Samsung photo editor also allows you to remove any annoying reflections or shadows from images. Samsung also recently introduced sketch to image. So what this does is it allows you to draw a rough sketch of an object on your existing image using your S Pen, and it will use AI to try to generate the object that you drew. And it does work surprisingly well. Both the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro XL allow you to create AI wallpapers based on some customizable prompts. All three phones allow you to erase objects from your images. The Pixel has the cleanest output and the iPhone has the least cleanest output. The Pixel has a magic editor suite that takes things to the next level. There's an auto-frame picture that allows you to reframe the picture into a more visually appealing image. And it's also very useful if parts of your image are cropped. It allows you to straighten out the image using AI. So the AI will intelligently fill in the gap. The Pixel has a reimagine feature, which is kind of crazy. You select a part of an image and then you ask the AI to change it into completely different. So you can change it into a completely different scenery, a completely different object, and the results are just very impressive when it works. There's also a new Pixel Studio app, which is an AI image generation tool. It works decently well depending on the complexity of your query, and this feature is actually coming to the iPhone 16 series as well under the image playground. The Pixel also has a screenshots app that basically takes the screenshot and makes the content of the screenshot more searchable. So you don't have to search for exact keywords to be able to find a screenshot. You can type in a rough query sometime in the future, and the AI will try to determine what exactly you're looking for. It also allows you to organize your screenshots into collections, kind of like a Pinterest board. The winner in this category for me is the S24 Ultra. It has the most AI features, and a lot of the Pixel exclusive features do end up coming to Samsung phones later down the line. Performance. In everyday use, it's very difficult to tell the difference in performance of all of these three phones, because all of these phones do have spectacular performance with no lag. But when it comes to raw performance based on several benchmarks and really heavy gaming, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is ahead of the S24 Ultra, miles ahead of the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And even if we don't look at benchmarks, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the only phone here that can play console-level games. And in some games, you can even bump up the frame rate up to 120 frames per second versus it being capped at 60 frames per second on both the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro XL. I do really want to stress that if you're not a gamer and you're not using your phone with super intensive tasks all the time, you're not going to notice a difference in other everyday tasks. The winner in the performance category story is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, exclusives, and the details. It's usually the details that make or break a purchasing decision, so that's why this section is particularly important. Now, I'm going to start by getting this out of the way. Some people may argue that iMessage and FaceTime are deal-breaker Apple exclusive features, and in 2024, I just don't agree with this narrative. iPhones now have RCS, so texting between Android phones and iPhones has vastly improved. So that should diminish the appeal of iMessage right away. I don't care what the color of the bubble is. It's the same experience. And outside of North America, most people use WhatsApp. If you have friends or family that are not willing to download an app like WhatsApp or any other messaging app, but they're willing to download TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Candy Crush, all these other random horoscope apps, but they say that they don't want to have to deal with another messaging app, your problem is not owning an iPhone. You have a bigger problem. There is something fundamentally wrong there. Once you download something like WhatsApp, you miraculously also have FaceTime. Congratulations. Be a decent human being and just download WhatsApp. Let's move on to actual advantages of owning an iPhone. So the iPhone paired with AirPods allows you to turn your AirPods into a hearing aid, and it's FDA approved. So I think that's incredibly useful if you're somebody that has difficulty hearing. And what better way to have a hearing aid that's also already your AirPods? And what it does is in your AirPods, it basically listens to your surrounding and amplifies the sound in your environment. You can now screen mirror between your iPhone and your Mac, but what's really neat is that in that screen mirroring view, you can drag and drop items between your iPhone and your Mac directly. The iPhone also has a customizable action button. So there are some default presets that are available, like turning on the flashlight, going into a particular camera setting, but you can go crazy here by using Siri shortcuts that are mapped to specific focus modes. So as an example, I can have a work focus mode that's connected to a coffee shop. So anytime I use the action button in the work focus mode, it will order a coffee for me directly. But if I use the action button in my personal mode, it can turn off the light. And you can even go crazier by creating dedicated custom action menus. The only criticism I have is that the placement of the button makes it a little bit inaccessible, and the placement of the button really impacts how often I actually use the button. You can also program Samsung's power button to open up any app when you double press it, but that's as far as you can go. So the iPhone has AirDrop and Android has Quick Share, but what the iPhone has is something called Name Drop. So you can bump two iPhones together and exchange contact info. The iPhone also has live activities, so you can see sports scores and Uber rides without needing to unlock your phone. And then there's a dynamic island. So this acts as a status bar that shows you a little bit of the same information as a live activity, but it also gives you some form of limited multitasking to switch between media apps and timers and Uber and stuff like that directly from the dynamic island. Another advantage that the iPhone has is that apps tend to be better optimized for the iPhone. Like TikTok just got dark mode on Android. The Instagram app allows you to add only one hashtag to a story on Android, but multiple hashtags on iPhone. These are just some high-level examples, but it explains a common theme when it comes to apps for Android versus iPhone. It's not a huge disparity, but there is a slight experience difference. But on the other side of the coin, the iPhone requires you to leave apps open to finish processing background tasks. Like if you're uploading an Instagram story, or if you're uploading media to Google Drive or Google Photos, you have to leave the app open. Android doesn't have this issue. It allows you to process a lot of these tasks in the background. The last advantage I do want to call out for the iPhone is something called a legacy contact. So what a legacy contact is a person that you specifically designate in the event of your death to get access to all of your data on iCloud. So this could be notes, your photos, your contacts, but it doesn't actually share your passwords. When it comes to multitasking and productivity, Samsung is by far ahead of both the Pixel and the iPhone. On top of split screen multitasking, which the Pixel and the S24 Ultra can do, but the iPhone cannot, Samsung gives you a third floating window as well. And if that's not enough for you, you can turn your phone into a computer with Samsung DeX and connect multiple accessories at the same time. And some of the apps are even optimized to take advantage of Samsung decks, like the Microsoft Office suite. And then there's the S Pen. The S Pen is not just a simple stylus. It allows you to take instant notes without needing to unlock your phone. You can use the S Pen to sign documents directly on the go. Obviously, you can use your S Pen to draw, and the pen also acts like a mouse to scroll through the interface. If you're somebody that edits photos and videos, you're really gonna love the S Pen because you have the precision of a pen versus using your fat finger. There's even other features like using it as a magnifying glass or using it as a Bluetooth shutter button. There's a lot to go in with the S Pen. Samsung also allows you to clone your favorite messaging apps. So you can have two versions of WhatsApp or two versions of Snapchat as an example. So you can really take full advantage of dual SIM and multiple eSIMs. Samsung also gives you the most customization. Not only do you have custom themes that can change up the look of the entire user interface, but you can download the Good Lock app, which takes things to the next level. You can customize things like your volume slider and even your app switcher, and that's just scratching the surface. Now, the Pixel has no shortage of exclusive features, and many of these are very practical. And there is also one really weird one. Okay, let's start with the weird one. There's an inbuilt temperature sensor. Yes, there's a built-in temperature sensor, and you can check the temperature of objects, and in some countries it's actually approved to be used as a thermometer, so you can scan your forehead temperature by just running the phone over your forehead. That's really all I can say about it, and I reckon Google's gonna kill it next year. Now for the good stuff. There's an inbuilt call screening feature, so if you receive a call from an unknown number, or if you're busy and it's a call from somebody you know, you can have the call screened, and if it's worth your time, you can pick up the call midway and just continue the conversation. Your Pixel is also capable of holding for you when a call center puts you on hold. And in some countries, you can actually completely surpass the automated prompts using a feature called Direct My Call. So the Pixel already knows what prompts are going to lead you to the department that you're trying to reach. So you can bypass a lot of that directly in the Pixel in supported countries. Lastly, in the US, you can actually record calls on the Pixel and generate notes and a summary of your call. The Pixel also sounds the best, whether it's on loudspeaker or through the earpiece. The Pixel also has the best haptics by far on any smartphone. And this is really important because it actually makes the phone feel more alive and the elements more interactive. So whether that's going through your app switcher and feeling all the individual apps on the volume slider, and most importantly, the keyboard typing experience in the Pixel is unmatched. And that's purely thanks to the haptics. Even if you download Google Keyboard on the S24 Ultra, you still won't get that experience. On the Pixel, you can select text and images directly from the app's overviews, and it's also the easiest way to take a screenshot with one hand. The Pixel 9 Pro XL has the best voice typing on any phone, and it's not even close. Even if you install Google Keyboard on the S24 Ultra, you don't get the same experience as you do on the Pixel, and the difference is night and day. Both the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro XL have circle to search, which is so helpful because it can quickly search for what's on your screen or translate what's on your screen super quickly. Another feature that the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro XL have that the iPhone doesn't is wireless power share. So this is basically reverse wireless charging on the back of your phone. So you can charge up your earbuds, a smartwatch, or even another phone, including the iPhone. When it comes to pricing, the S24 Ultra starts at $1,300 US with 256 gigabytes of base storage. The iPhone 16 Pro Max starts at $1,200 for 256 gigabytes, and the Pixel 9 Pro XL starts at $1,100 for 128 gigs. You can bump up to 256 gigs for $1,200. So all things the same, the S24 Ultra does have a $100 premium. However, this is MSRP, and the S24 Ultra's price has dropped down significantly and goes on sale very often. Historically, the iPhone holds the best resale value and the Pixel holds the worst resale value. Both Samsung and Google are going to give you 7 years of dedicated major software support. The iPhone doesn't have a specific range, but historically we've seen between 5 to 7 years. Overall, the winner of this category for me is the S24 Ultra. It's the best bang for your buck and has the most features and exclusives. So if you've been keeping track, the winner of this comparison is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the most boring phone of 2024. And to be honest, I was also surprised when I tallied up the points for this comparison. Now, that doesn't mean it's the best smartphone for you, and it certainly wasn't for me. The daily driver that I'm going to be going ahead with is the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. I love the software, the build, the display, the camera, and also all of the AI features. It fits my needs the best. Let me know which phone you'd choose in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.